welcome to this episode of DevOps Dialogues. My name is Paul Nashawaty. I'm the practice lead for the app dev practice at the Futurum Group, and I'm joined by Mitch today. Mitch, want to introduce yourself?
Hey, happy to be here with you, Paul, on DevOps Dialogue. I'm Mitch Ashley. I'm a Chief Technology Advisor with Futurum Group, working with Paul and the app dev, DevOps, and cybersecurity space, and also come from the TechStrong world through that acquisition, where I'm CTO as well. So good to be here, man.
Yeah, great to have you. I mean, this is a really exciting time, and I love to have you as my partner in crime in this journey that we're on with regards to DevOps and platform engineering and DevSec Ops and all the fun stuff that goes along with it. We have this event coming up that's kind of focused around it. It's KubeCon. That's a small event. I think you've heard of it once or twice, but
it's been in all the papers. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
As they say.
But it's really exciting to me because there's a lot happening in the space. I know that there's a lot of transition with the big vendors out there. Also, the smaller vendors are coming up. The emerging vendors are really kind of taking bites out of the market, right? A couple of things that really excite me is like WASM and CloudNative. What's happening in CloudNative? Talking about the Kubernetes platforms, how that's helping with DevOps, platform engineering, and then of course DevSec Ops is always a topic of interest. But let's start with talking about it in the context of what we expect to see out of this show. It's only a few weeks away, right? It's coming up, but I mean, I'm really getting excited about it. We're talking a lot of pre-briefs around this. What are your thoughts on WASM, WebAssembly?
Well, let me just add one perspective too on it. It's become a show that used to be just about primarily Kubernetes, and now it's really cloud native applications, app dev, data, all parts of it, right? Much more of a practitioner show. And to your point about asking about WASM, it's got a lot of interest, especially at the edge of the network. And that ties right in with, yes, we think we're going to be doing more AI at the edge. Yes, the edge is not just smartphones and computers, it's kiosks and point of sale devices and apps that are running in grocery stores and doctor offices and hospitals and everything. So WASM is exciting, as a delivery platform for operational platform for running applications. It's kind of fun to see it evolving along with the edge and applications, use cases for it. So, I know you and I have been talking to companies like Fermion and others, I always say that wrong, and others that are in this space. So I don't know, what do you think? What's happening in WASM? What are we going to see maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I have, of course, my opinions, but I mean, I'm an analyst. I go back to data, right? I look at data and I look at, a recent study I ran. We were asking about, I talk about the past, present, and future with the modernization strategy of applications. And we were asking about WASM, and we were seeing how 39% of respondents indicated that they're actively using WebAssembly today as part of the use case, which is surprising to me. And they said over the next 2 years, we saw that number jump up to 42%. Now, I think it's interesting because in 2022, I was having conversations with Fermion, Matt Butcher over there, and Liam at Cosmonic, and Liam Randall, and Scott Johnson at Docker. And where do I have these conversations, right? Having this, hey, this WASM thing, is it cool? And it's like, yeah, it's kind of exploratory. It's happening. 2023, in my opinion, was really the pivot point for WASM, right? It really helped drive the adoption. And really why was because WASM added multi-threaded support as well as .NET support. Prior to that, the use cases was like Python and BI applications. It was really good for processing. But now with the adoption of .NET and using multi-threaded applications, it opens up a whole bunch of new use cases here, right? The other thing, I like what you said on the edge. The reason why I like what you said on the edge is because when you look at the edge, companies like Zedita, right, for example, working on orchestration of Kubernetes clusters at the edge, they're looking at these different scenarios that are out there. The challenge that the edge has is, you have Intel processors, you have AMD processors, you have ARM processors, you have all sorts of different technologies. Well, WASM kind of harmonizes all that. You don't have to recompile the code, right? You can only build that 10% of business logic and keep 90% of the code without recompiling. That's brilliant, right? So using it at the edge I think the orchestration piece comes in. So from a cloud native and from kind of a growth perspective, WebAssembly has legs, but it also it's still in its infancy, I think.
Still early, but it's kind of the next generation of that promise that, if you remember way back into the Java introduction of write once, run anywhere, because of the Java runtime environment. It's not the same thing, of course, that we're talking about, but WASM's like the current generation of that, delivering on that promise. And to your point, the variation in endpoint devices, even down to the, this revision of hardware that you're running on with this chip for Wi-Fi or whatever it might be, can be, mind-numbingly or frustratingly aggravating to manage all those variances and differences. And, it's one of the things that really helps abstract that away.
Well, absolutely. So, but like when we look at this and we pivot to, other topics that are coming up at KubeCon, right? Like, of course, cloud native is going to be the topic of choice and the discussion of choice. Cloud native is interesting to me, right? And I've been doing this trending study for the past 4 years on distributed cloud, multi-cloud environments. We were seeing a couple of years ago in 2022, we saw that 89% of organizations were using 2 or more clouds. That jumped up to 92% in 23 and now in 24, our research shows that that's 94% of organizations using 2 or more clouds. 65% are using 4 or more clouds, and that's for production applications, not SaaS-based applications, but production applications. SaaS-based, actually, we have some data this year showing that 97% of organizations are using 2 or more. So there's a lot of cloud adoption. Any net new applications being built. I was just on a recording with Mike Zudd, and we were talking about this, about the cloud native now, and we're talking about new applications being built. And we were saying, well, is it all going to be on cloud native? And my response is, yeah. I mean, cloud native is really where net new applications being developed. The question, and I want to see out of this event, is 88%, according to our research, 88% of heritage applications are still running in that siloed environment, in a heritage environment. Not all of those applications need to be refactored into cloud native. They can be encapsulated into cloud ready state and be a system of record and build new systems of engagement in the front end that access it. What are your thoughts on the evolution? If you look at these KubeCon and these other events, you think that there's no other product out there except for cloud native products, but I don't think that's true.
Well, there's flavors of cloud native, right? There's microservices and containers and service mesh and things like that, which is kind of where I came from on cloud native. But there's also the broader built for and operate in the cloud, leveraging cloud services, multi-cloud, can mean kind of lots of things. And I think that's part of that evolution of KubeCon. It's not just about running Kubernetes. Though we do have Kubernetes at the edge, K3 and K0 and all kinds of variations of that happening. I think it's backing it up for a second. It's about modern day architectures. I mean, we did this survey question once. I wish I had the results from it. But we asked, the question of, does cloud native require DevOps? And the answer was essentially yes. The ability to produce and mass produce that many number of microservices at some velocity. Now you're talking about more than people can handle by their hands, by their computers, in a personal one-to-one basis. It's got to be automated. And matter of fact, that's part of what enables cloud native is those DevOps processes where whether you truly follow DevOps or you're applying some of the practices. It's automation, it's testing in unit and deploying into test environments. It's CI/CD process, et cetera. So I think of it as a modern way of creating applications, whether it's the DevOps part of it or strictly cloud native with microservices or kind of larger definition of cloud native. That's how people are doing things.
Yeah, look, I agree. I mean, I think that you're spot on to a lot of this. I think that there's interesting perspective is when you look at research around this. In our latest study, we found that 24% of respondents indicate that they want to release code on an hourly basis, yet only 8% are able to do so. The companies that are able to do so are you hit the nail on the head. They're running DevOps methodologies. They're doing agile software development methodologies. They're running, infrastructure as code. and they're doing, using Git repositories to get the code out the door quickly. So it's repeatable, faster kind of delivery for faster cadence. Business KPIs are driving that. Those are the expectation results. With that said, when we look at those business KPIs and how they're driving these results, there's this need, or there has been a need for, we've seen over the years that this growth of Kate's or Kubernetes kind of platforms that are out there, right? We see that you were mentioning that, building out your Kubernetes environments or building out your microservices environments. We see in our recent observability study that 43% of respondents indicate that their production applications are running 30 to 60% of their production applications are running in a microservices environment. So my question to you, Mitch, is, I've been following this space for quite some time. You've been in this space for quite some time. The Kubernetes platform vendors that were out there, right? The companies like Rayfay or D2IQ, for example. D2IQ being acquired by Nutanix. Rayfay now expanded from just Kubernetes to more looking at the environment. Why, if you look, when you look at these different platforms, right? NetHopper has one, and Humanix has another one for DevOps and platform engineering. If you look at these different platforms that are out there, I felt, that the Kubernetes platform was going to take off to help accelerate the adoption of Kubernetes. But in turn, it seems like there's been a consolidation of that market where, like I said, Nutanix buying D2IQ, right? And, Rayfay expanding their portfolio for growth. Why do you think that they're looking at expanding their portfolios from these just Kubernetes specific platforms to more holistically across virtualized environments?
Well, first of all, I feel like you're inviting me to play, so I got to throw out a few statistics of my own too. So to validate what you're saying, because we just completed a DevOps study, and where we asked, are you using CloudNative or using Kubernetes and microservices? And our results were 57% were doing that. Another 22 are considering. Yeah, so it's real. I mean, kind of looking at data that's kind of validating each other. To your question, though, I think what we're experiencing, and this also has backed up some of the results of the widespread adoption of DevOps kind of process of how we create software, is that we're evolving from lots of siloed solutions. I need a this and a that and this, that, and then I'll assemble that together and create my application. I get this from Rafa and I get this from somebody else or whatever it might be. And now we're seeing consolidation, and I don't want to call it homogenization, but I don't want to deal with 25 people to create a platform. I want people to help create a platform for me, right? Think about platform engineering, whether that's my DevOps tool chain, and I'm going to go to a GitLab that's more of a DevOps platform, or JFrog or somebody like that, or like you're talking about the deployment environment. You even saw it with Broadcom had some announcements around VMware and Tanzu about doing things on premise, similar to what you would do in the cloud. I think people are looking for ways to try to simplify some of that complexity, because the more complex, we're not going to stop adding things to their environment, right? It's just a natural of our industry. But you have to have ways of, okay, let me start to take out some complexity so I can handle the new things that are coming in. And I think that's part of this trend. Also, just the competitive nature of the environment, right? The market. Okay, I can't be just a single thing there. I've got to be able to provide more value and help my customers meet the velocity and acceleration that they're being asked to meet.
Yeah, Mitch, absolutely. I want to comment on the data points, because I think it's also very important. 5 years ago, I transitioned from the vendor world to being an analyst. And 25 years in the vendor world, I would work with the analyst community and absolutely not just get one data point from one analyst and say, that's what I'm going to go with. It's I go to all the analysts. So I love the fact that, in the analyst community, that we can share each other's views. And frankly, even though our data matched and lines up, I also like when that doesn't match, because it's like, what happened? Like, how is that different? So it's kind of good to validate that. But, look, speaking of data, to Andy, in your complexity comment, in our recent observability research, we found that 75% of respondents use 6 to 15 different tools to gather insights for their information around their environment. That's hugely complex. Not surprising. The very next question was, are you looking to change your observability tool in 2024? And 53% said yes, because they want to move towards more of a, like you were talking about, a full stack observability solution. So it's really interesting. But when we look at that, I want to kind of pivot a little bit over to from observability, kind of reach into that DevSecOps space, right? Because I think DevSecOps out of KubeCon is going to be very, very interesting. I think that there has been some consolidation of the market, but there's also new approaches that are coming out of RSA and coming out of different Black Hat. You see that there's a number of different things that are happening in the security space that, I believe that KubeCon might be able to kind of unpack some of that. What are your thoughts?
Well, it like all of this is, going through its evolution and maturity cycles. And here's my just kind of high level view of DevSecOps is we've been through the shift left period. Let's make it the developer's problem. We've been through the let's move it left. So we design security into the process. We've moved into the code scanning and doing things like vulnerability scanning, things like that to help create more secure code. But I think supply chain security has pointed out to us, software supply chain security, a couple things. As in the security world, where I also come from, if you don't secure it all, and the 3 walls of the house are secured, but the back is wide open, is not secure, right? And so that's what DevSecOps is evolving to. Is think of it on 2 planes. The first plane is how we create software, that we create it in a way that it's secure. So we're designing good API. We have good API management and lifecycle management and security built into how we do that, how we design our applications, et cetera, all the way through delivering it into production environments. And I just pick out but AppSec, if you want to think of it that way. And then the stack, of course, that it's running on, whether it's the kind of software infrastructure, the Kubernetes, et cetera, all the way down to the cloud infrastructure stack. The second plane is, because this is where supply chain security comes in, is what about the underlying tool chain and all the processes that are used to create that, right? It might be one thing just to have secure cars on the highway, but the highways suck. Well, guess what? You don't have security. Same thing with our underlying tool chain that we use all the way through the entire DevOps process. So there's a lot more focus on, for example, how do we use some of the principles from security, things like isolation segmentation, so that if something happens upstream, my CI/CD doesn't get compromised, right? Because the same thing happens there is get in here and then move laterally and get to the goods, right? Where you can insert your code or do whatever damage that you're doing. I think that's what we're evolving to, and that's why you see people kind of repositioning themselves as DevSecOps companies, not because they have a little bit of security, but they're addressing it more in a life cycle standpoint. Not that it's all solved, but I think customers don't have to solve that all on their own either, right? It's a hard enough problem stitching together a set of tools, and now we can do it with platforms. How do we do that with security? That's my view of it.
Yeah, I love it. I love the perspective. I mean, I think when I think about it, I think that when I think about what you were talking about, I was thinking about, introducing another injection point into the CI/CD pipeline, which to have the security injection point. You already have your CI/CD pipeline, and you have your telemetry pipeline, you have your security pipeline. So you have all these different things you have to match. And, I agree with your assessment that, there's a lot of companies out there that are trying to address, pivot themselves to be more focused on this. But I'm going to take a little bit different spin, and say that a lot of these companies, also the organizations that are delivering it, they are accountable, and they are accountable for their actions. And frankly, with the executive orders that are put in place right now, with the fines and the reputation that organizations have to deal with, and also the impact of the overall business, security is a very strong area. I think that there's a lot here to unpack and a lot to talk about, and I'm definitely looking forward to connecting with the vendors that we have a nice strategic relationship with. Slim AI, for example. Slim AI, they do a great job at slimming down that the containerization. I love that approach from an application perspective. That's very interesting to me. I'm looking forward to meeting with Sleek and Harness and all the companies in the DevSecOps space as well. So lots happening at KubeCon. I also want to make a shameless plug to the fact that we're doing application development field day right before KubeCon. So on the Tuesday and Wednesday of that week, if you're coming to KubeCon anyways, App Dev Field Day is right there. It's an event that really helps streamline and kind of gets your message out there, but also gets the delegates in the room to help talk about what their perspectives are for what the solution is. So any thoughts on App Dev Field Day?
Yeah, it's relatively new to me. I've experienced a couple. Matter of fact, I'm doing the AI one that's right upon us here. It's an experience with, like, imagine yourself where if you are having a vendor, a technology supplier you're considering, you want to have the conversation that you'd like to have with them, but you wish you had more perspective, depth, other things to it. That's what the delegates bring to this. It's you're listening in on a group of people who are asking the questions you wish you had thought to ask. And that's what this online event is, where you can watch it, in real time. And it's not to make the vendor squirm. We're not trying to do that. That's not the case. It's really just thinking through, okay, if we're app dev, let's talk about it. If we're talking about, AI, applying AI into the IDE and into the development process, well, what are some of the issues that come out? How do we think about that? What are good ways to solve that? Is there something that you do with that? Those kind of things. So I think as a practitioner, consumer of the kind of technologies for the vendors that are going to be at App Dev Field Day, it's a great way to kind of watch the professional tennis match, right? And you don't have to play in front of an audience. You can play it on your own at whatever level you are. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, absolutely, Mitch. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be another great event. I mean, I know the last one was fantastic. We had a lot of viewers on the live stream. We had the follow-up was fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to it. Mitch, it's been a pleasure. Looking forward to seeing you at KubeCon. Looking forward to seeing you, work with you on a couple of different events here. Also, the audience here, hit us up. I mean, Mitch and I are both going to be at KubeCon, I believe, and I know I am. So hit us up, and we're gonna be more than happy to talk to you about any of these data points that we threw out there, but also anything you want to talk about in our insights. But thank you, and thank you for watching, and enjoy your day. Have a good day.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you at KubeCon, if not before.